Welcome to the Wellness on Tap podcast with your host, Dr. Debs Eastwood.
So today I'm going to welcome the fabulous Richie Moore. I've been looking forward to this, my darling.
Thank you.
I'm not going to make any attempt to describe what it is that you do. I'm going to leave that conundrum to you because I don't know if you've got an explanation.
But
but
I go.
I want to know what it is that led you to do that as well. So fire away, whether you want to do your story first, whether you want to do what you're doing, I don't mind.
Where do we start? Well, I suppose career-wise, I started in conventional psychology, which was fascinating. It's something I took up later in life again, like yourself, just made a decision that, because I'd fucked about a lot at school, it wasn't really. And then when I realised that, psychology, there's something in this. And for complete transparency, it was because I was fucked up, as you'll find most psychotherapists and so forth are. So I thought it was a covert way. I thought, rather than say I need help, I'll go and be the help, and then I can help myself in the process. Because stigma was still a thing, 20 odd years ago.
For sure.
So I started there, but whilst I got very deep into it, and my specialist field was trauma, because that's what I needed to heal as well. So that happened quite naturally, but I didn't stay in conventional psychology very long because it was far too concerned with what was broken than actually what's the solution. And I was seeking solutions and working with people and being told that, you need to stick within this parameter. Now, don't get me wrong, I wasn't unsafe, but it was like, well, if I know there's something that I've learned recently, it's in the back of my mind that can help this person, it's against my intuition to keep that to myself. So I quickly realised I couldn't stay within this conventional.
You just weren't conventional enough.
No, never have been, never will be. But it gave me a good foundation. And, I was successfully helped people for many years, but was I walking my talk? That was the question.
I feel there's more to that.
Yeah, without a doubt. I consider myself, a high achiever, without that sounding like a boast, as in like achieving a lot of things, because I was doing a lot of things similar to yourself. And I was good at that. I could do a lot of things, but I was running my own practice part-time. I was also working for an airline part-time. So I was flying the world at the same time and jumping time zones and God knows what, helping with flying without fear programs. So helping people with their phobia of
Wonderful.
flying. And I loved all of that. That was fantastic. But as with most, reached a plateau. I was like, I want to give back now. I want to do something a little bit more, because it was all ticking along fine, usual boxes ticked, house, cars, husband, etc. And so we decided that we would go into fostering children to make a difference. And the intention was that we would foster lots of children for short periods of time, take a nice break in between, and partners was ahead of a sixth form college at the time, so decent holidays. I had free travel. I was like, I've got this sorted, Couldn't be further from the truth.
Best laid plans and all that.
Yeah. So, I've got the therapy, he's got the education, we've got it covered. But no, not at all. But we didn't get very far with it, to be honest, because first placement was an 8 and 9-year-old brother brother and sister even, who came for 2 weeks. And then we fell in love with them and they stayed. So we never got past the 2. But of course they came with a lot of trauma and stuff themselves. So again, thinking, we're in the best position to do this. But I'd fallen into that trap of the hierarchy of trauma where, what I've been through is worse than you, or vice versa. And in my case, playing down my childhood was nowhere near as bad, severe as what they'd suffered. So they were a priority. Mm-hmm. But in making them the priority, I neglected myself. And it wasn't just 2 children, it was 3 horses, 6 chickens, 4 dogs, two jobs. And I got into this routine, caring for everything but myself. And on paper, I was doing very well. You know, I was vegan, I was running, swimming, yoga, meditation. But in hindsight, I realised that that was me, not in pursuit of wellness, but in fear of illness.
Ah, I see. Coming from a completely different perspective.
Yeah, because I'd had a health scare back in 2004, and that sort of put me into this, like, this isn't going to beat me. I'm going to overcome this. And at the time, I thought it was the end. I thought, like, this is me done for.
Goodness.
In hindsight, it's not such a big deal at all. But I was diagnosed HIV positive. But at the time, I knew very little. I thought life was over. That was it. I'd never have another partner. It was, you know.
There was a lot of rhetoric around it that was really negative like that, wasn't there, in the earlier days?
Absolutely. And, I remember people warning me things which are absolutely stupid now, but like, oh, you can't let anyone touch your toothbrush and you can't do this. And all this hangover from the 80s, you know.
Yeah.
And I thought that was it. That was me done for. But then I went into, okay, well, you've overcome other things. And how did you do that? Well, educated yourself, so I'll do exactly that. And I sustained myself very well, drug-free for 13 years. I have a fantastic relationship with my consultant, and he was always very interested in what I was doing and how I was doing it, and did that for many years. But unconsciously, I was coming from fear, because that was the initial. Because although I was very young in the 80s, I still heard it all unconsciously.
It was massive, wasn't it? It was all over the television. Everywhere. There was posters everywhere you went.
Yeah. So you hear people, family, parents talking about headlines and things like that. So it was going in. And I was terrified initially until I'd educated myself enough to go, right, now I'm going to deal with this.
Yeah.
And I did, but that whole period was fear of being sick. So it was like, I've got to be clean eating, I've got to be vegan, I can't touch this, I can't do that. But that in itself was building a lot of resistance rather than resilience, really, and pushed me to extremes. You know, at one point I was raw vegan, I wouldn't even cook the food. You know, it was, I see it now in hindsight as a bit of an eating disorder, if I'm completely honest. Not saying that is for people, but me in pursuit of that.
Yeah.
Because of that, that's where the motivation came from. But anyway, again, in hindsight, the wonderful thing, I realised that was really the motivation. I was motivated away from being sick. So in this process, all these things that were ticking boxes health-wise were very helpful, but they weren't done with the right energy from the start.
Totally, yeah.
So I neglected myself in this process. I was very rigid with myself. You know, I had to have this routine. This had to be done. It was the only way to achieve anything, really, and manage all of that, you know. And I wasn't really looking at what was going on the inside, you know, not really taking care of myself, not really loving myself, not really embracing health, and pitching myself at the bottom of the list, because children and animals don't look after themselves. And, you know, I was raised that way, you know. Animals had to get fed before you got fed.
For sure.
So it kind of went in that vein for a while, and I got extremely stressed.
I'm not surprised.
To say the least.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. A lot of pressure you were putting on yourself there, physically, emotionally.
Yeah, incredibly so. But on the outside, nobody had a clue, really, because all the boxes were ticked on the outside. I'm quite a composed person. And, you know, the reality is, and I mean this quite literally now, I was dying inside. Mm-hmm. Maintaining this, you know, my own rhetoric, you know, is like, nothing's as bad as what the kids have been through. They're a priority. You know, dads do this all the time. They're a single dad, you know, you've got support, you know, keep going. And I wanted this badge of super dad just to prove that, you know, you could do all of this, but at what cost?
So what triggered the change then?
Well, I started to get stomach issues, which we couldn't understand as the healthy vegan. And I told the doctor, said intuitively, I said, I think I've got a stomach ulcer. And it got written off as, you're 36, you know, you're vegan, you do this, and this. So there's no way it could be that. So we went off on a bit of a tangent, gallbladder this, you know, and all these other things. And he didn't get any better at all. And eventually they said, we'll put a camera down and we'll have a look at what's going on. And lo and behold, it was a stomach ulcer. And I remember while the camera was down and the consultant saying, you know, he said, oh, I don't like the look of this. And I went, okay. I said, as in, don't like the look of it because there's something wrong or it's not quite what we think. You know, and he was like, no. He said, it's just I haven't seen anything like this before. He said, so I'll have to go away. And I went, oh, okay. And then my mind started, and I thought,
I'm not surprised. That's not very comforting, is it?
No. And to be honest, I asked to watch it because I'm fascinated by all of that. So I watched it, and I mean, it was fucking ugly. It was horrendous, but I don't know what it's meant to look like or not.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I went back for the results, and unfortunately I was stuck in traffic and I had to pin the consultant down. He was just leaving. And I said, I need you to tell me what's going on. He said, I can't. He said, I've got to leave. And I was like, I'm not leaving. I need to know now. I said, because this has been days of, your mind running a bit wild. And he said, I can't really do it here. He said, but I need you to go and see somebody else. And I went, okay, fine enough. So I got whisked off to somebody else, which happened to be a haematologist. And then I was sat down and told that in actual fact, I'd got a rare and aggressive lymphoma, blood cancer.
Oh, wow.
That needed immediate treatment. And without such, I could expect to have another 5 weeks.
At age 36?
Yeah.
With what looked to be a stress ulcer?
Yeah.
That's quite a turnaround in diagnosis.
Yeah. Bit of a surprise.
I was going to say, did your head just explode at that point?
Oddly not. And as my husband often says, he wished he could have videoed it, because I went to a place and I sat there and went, okay, so tell me, what do we do? How do I deal with this? Tell me what it is. Tell me where it's come from. And he wasn't that interested. He was quite caught in, because I was like, well, can we cut it out? Is that an option? And he was like, no. He said, there's no other option other than this intensive chemotherapy. He said, which is the strongest and most intensive we can give you without killing you. He went, so that is a possibility. He went, but this is your only option. And he went, so I've already prepared the bed. It's waiting for you. You've got your room upstairs. He said, we're ready to go. We need you to stay now. Wow. And I went, no. And to be honest, because I've been living in this super healthy lifestyle, mainstream medicine to me was like, oh no, especially chemo, not big pharma, no chance. And I had a very strong belief that chemo would kill me. So I said, no. I said, I'm going to go away. I said, I'll do my own research and I'll come back to you. And then he started getting really aggressive and he was like, you're not listening to me. You're going to die if you don't do what I say. I've seen people die within 3 days. And I was just on this plane and I was like, why are you projecting fear on me? I said, if I need to heal, why are you going down this route? I said, do you want me to just roll over like everybody else? Because it's not going to happen that way. There's no other way about this. You won't find a different opinion. And I said, I'm not looking for a different opinion. I'll take what you say, but I want to look into various other options. There are no other options. You can't do. And he went on and I said, no, I'm going home. So I went home and my husband and I stood out on the terrace at the back of the house going, oh, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You know? And I really felt, because of the interest in education I'd taken in natural health, I thought I must have the tools for this, because we're not given anything that we can't handle. I thought I must be able to do this. This is going to be the making of you. I went, but I just need a sign from the universe to be bold enough to say no to that and yes to what I want to do.
Wow.
And at 2020 on the clock, the biggest shooting star I've ever seen went straight across the sky.
Oh, tingles, goosebumps, love
and
it.
That's when we went, it's okay. The universe has got my back. Let's do this.
So that was decision made.
That was decision made. And I went back to see him and said, no, I'm going to manage this naturally. And he was not happy at all, of course.
No.
And kept giving me all of this fear-based stuff, you know. And I said, no, I'm going to go away. I said, I'm going to show you how it can be the other way. You know, I said, there's always an exception to the rule. He went, yes, there is. I went, well, there you go then. I said, that's enough. I said, that could be me. And I did. I sustained my life for 5 healthy months, taking ozone therapy.
Wonderful, yeah.
Cannabis oil, diet, intensively into my own psychotherapy, because I knew what it was about. I knew it was all connected to my father guilt, shame, my sexuality. It was even in the right-hand side of my stomach, which in metaphysical terms, the right-hand side is the masculine side. And I had it confirmed by somebody because the whole thing was divinely timed, to be honest. And it was like a day after diagnosis, a friend of mine said, oh, come and see a friend of mine's over from Ireland who happened to be a medical medium. And she went, you know what this is about, don't you? And I went, yeah. And then, and I told her and she went, yeah. And then she went into this whole thing and told me everything. She said, you know, you've got to sort that out if you want to sort this out. And I was like, yeah. And I did. So I went and saw my father the next day, who I don't get on with very well, and said, look, this is the situation. We need to sort this out now. So very therapeutic in that sense. Worked with an energy healer, a close colleague and friend of mine. So I got that level covered.
Wonderful.
And I was good to go. And then started having amalgam fillings removed so I could limit the toxicity in my body. But unfortunately, they removed one filling and the tooth broke and it turned out to be a bad tooth and then there was an abscess underneath.
Okay.
So there was this huge abscess up here on the left-hand side, and a long story short, I got very sick from that point onwards. My body couldn't handle the additional infection.
I was going to say one thing on top of another, both dangerous.
Yes, yeah. And within 2 weeks, my left side of my face was paralysed. I couldn't eat. I then became paralysed from the waist down. I couldn't walk. And I began to get very ill and waste away. Well, start dying, really, is the crude truth.
You must have been scared shitless, surely.
Sorry?
You must have been scared shitless, surely.
I can't say I was without fear, but I was very tenacious and going, no, this is going to be part of it. It's all going to be fine. It's all going to be fine. Keep doing what I'm doing, you know. Because all the time I was consulting the doctor, I never cut them out. I said, I'm all off for the diagnostics, you know, put me in the MRI, do whatever we need to do. And I'd sit there week on week and he'd be like, yeah, you're fine. And he'd be questioning, why are you not behaving like the book says? And I went, well, I'm not a book for a start. I said, but I could tell you all the things that I'm doing. He was like, well, you should be dead by now. And I was like, yeah, but I'm not. And it got to the stage where I went, are you actually interested in what I'm doing? And he told me straight, he went, first of all, he said, you can't prove what you're doing. And I was like, well, I am sat here. And he went, yeah, but you can't replicate it. And I went, okay, here we go. And I went, are you actually interested? And he went, I'm interested in the outcome. And I went, you mean whether I live or die? And I went, okay. I said, I won't talk to you about it anymore. I said, I'll talk to people that are interested. And I very much took that attitude. However, I didn't get any better in those 2 weeks. And they came to the conclusion that I needed to go into hospital to go on palliative care because I had less than a week at this stage. They told me that the cancer had spread through my spine and my brain and that there was no coming back. And it was time to prepare for such. And I still didn't want to go into hospital, if I'm honest. I'm
not surprised listening to what you've just said.
Yeah, I was still like, no. But as I'm sure you'll support, there are angels amongst us called nurses.
Very much.
One nurse spoke to me directly, because obviously I didn't have a very good relationship with the consultant. There was a lot of...
No, there's a bit of angst there between you at that point.
A bit, yeah. Bit of ego clash, bit of, you know. And she said, what are you doing to your husband and children? And I went, and then obviously hit me where it mattered.
Yes.
Because I say quite blatantly, I could not have been my husband in this equation.
All right.
I could do this with me because I was in control of me, but I could not be the witness that he was. And she got me and I went, okay. I said, I'll come in. I said, but all I want you to do is get me out of pain. So get me out of pain because it's an indescribable level of pain, to be honest. It's all of the worst things you could ever imagine happening to you. So get me out of pain, I'll be fine. And they were like, oh, okay, yeah. But anyway, I got there. So he took me into hospital and I got my own room and everything. It was quite pleasant. I was quite surprised, you know. And it wasn't private. It was a charity ran a specialist wing at a local hospital, or local to where I grew up anyway. And got settled in and they started, well, palliative care is a form of chemotherapy, as you know. And they started that and I was still in horrendous pain. I mean, at this stage, I was beating the floor and screaming the place down, which is not a thing that I would normally behave as such, but it was beyond anything that I could ever. And then I continued. I said, I'm fine, because my mind was fine. So this is why I felt still free and healthy and well. I was affirming it every day anyway, but it didn't affect my mind. It was my body was failing. And I understand now what that was about. I wanted to leave my body. That's what I knew, but my mind was still. So I was like, I'm fine. And I think in the consultant's desire to prove me wrong and him right, he said, right, I'll put you in the MRI scanner. And I went, yeah, please do. I said, I'm all for it, So I did. I went in the MRI scanner, and whilst I was there, I left my body and had a near-death experience. And that's where it all changed.
Wow. We need to just pause there for a second. So you consciously knew that you'd left your body?
Yeah. Because as they do, you have to keep absolutely still for the MRI. And I was like, well, this doesn't matter. I'm half paralysed. That's not a problem. But I knew my mind would be a problem. I said, so let me get into meditation and I'll say when I'm ready to go. So I did. I dropped into meditation and I was focusing every day as I did on love. Everything that I loved, the word, everything. And so I went into meditation, and then the light, as it is so clearly put, I saw the light and went into it thinking that, meditating, it's all fine. And appeared into absolutely nothing but pure white light. But it contained everything. Absolutely everything. Every question, thought, answer, it was just all in that space. The perfect frequency of bliss, love, whatever you want to call it. But it was nothing. But I knew that it contained everything. There was an indescribable wholeness to it. So I didn't meet the man on the pearly gates or have any of that sort of in-between bits that I hear some people have. And I just knew I was back at source. And it was just being held in that space, which was beautiful. And took me a long time to stop fantasizing about afterwards.
Yeah. It sounds like it's the sort of thing that we all try to aspire to almost by things like meditation and healing and natural processes and loving ourselves and the epitome of all of that.
Yeah.
Wow. Please carry on.
And it was from that perspective, once I'd established where I was at, if you like. But I was not having any thought processes. It was just this knowing. There was no sitting there, curiosity, asking questions. It was just this knowing. There was no question to be asked because the answers were all there. It was just... But then I looked from that perspective and I could see not specifically my body, but I could see this reality. I could see this world as it is. I could see the hospital. That's mainly, and bizarrely, it was the car park, but hospital car park. And everything that contained love, I could see had an energy, a glow, a brightness, and everything that didn't was like grayscale.
That's amazing.
And again, even at that moment in time, this was just witnessing. I didn't have the thought process. A lot more came in hindsight. And I was like, I get this. This is the duality that we live in, which stripped back is either love or non-love, purely and simply. The frequency of love, not romantic love, love or non-love. And I just remember just witnessing that. And then hearing something that I would say to myself, but I still have no recollection whether it was my voice or not, I don't know, so I can't say either way, but that was, you've got too much shit to do. And after hearing that and the acknowledgement of that, that's when they said, Richie, we're pulling you out the MRI. And apparently I've been in there for like an hour and a half, an hour and 45 or something like that, but I had no recollection of. And I was just like, wow, it's all going to be fine. I know it is. It's another sign. It's all going to be absolutely fine. And I remember a partner wheeling me out, and we went and sat outside, and it was really bright, sunny day, and it was just, everything was just, I could see the energy in everything that was real. And I was just like, wow. And I was starting to think, is it the drugs? Is it like, going through all of this? Because I've got no benchmark for any of this. No point of reference. It was just like, wow, okay. So I went back to the room and I was like, going to be fine, going to be fine. And consultant finally came in and he said, I said, so I got your MRI. He said, I'm not sure what to make of it though. He said, because here it shows that the cancer hasn't spread at all. He said it's still contained within your stomach. But I was covered in tumours. So, but we couldn't quite, and I still don't quite understand what he could see because, well, you probably make sense of an MRI, but,
To a certain extent, yes. The obvious things.
But it was like, oh, okay. And I went, see, I told you, I'm going to be fine. Now, whether that was the case before I went in or whether it changed after, there's no way I'll ever be able to tell.
That would have been amazing if you'd had an MRI beforehand, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Hindsight.
Yeah. So I don't have a before or after, so I can't make any, I don't make any claim. I'll never know.
No.
But not really that relevant, but the point was that I wasn't in the state that they said. But I still had the lengthy speech of like, well, there's still nothing we can do for you because you're not strong enough to take a treatment or do anything. And again, I was like, I'll decide if I'm strong enough, not you. I was like, give me a few days, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. And anyhow, the palliative care started to work.
I was just going to ask about your pain.
Yeah. And the pain started to subside. Good. And the tumours started to get smaller. And obviously palliative care is not for that, but it was doing something. Again, beyond my comprehension really, but I started to get better and I started to get stronger. And then I was faced with the option of potentially slowly introducing treatment. But very, very slowly because obviously the state that I was in. And it depended on the bloods being this or that or whatever. So I worked with the energy healer and I said, right, these bloods need to double for me to be able to do X, Y, and Z. And we did. We doubled them. She was down in Bournemouth. I was up in Birmingham. And we started changing blood results. And we slowly introduced a bit of treatment. And of course, as I said before, contradicting myself, it was absolutely not what I wanted to do. Mm. But at this point, having had the experience, there was a different level of surrender because I knew the universe was taking care of this. Now, surrender means not giving up, but if this is what the universe is presenting me with, I've exhausted all that I'm doing, well, still continue to do.
Yeah.
I'm working with the people I'm working with. Now, the universe is saying you could potentially take treatment that you don't want. So I thought, get out of your ego, get out of yourself. If this is an option that's being presented, then it might have something to do with the equation.
Fair enough, yeah.
But I also went into this knowing that to heal anything that I needed to heal on every level. Physically, mentally, emotionally, energetically, spiritually even. And I thought, wow. I mean, I have a lot of respect for my doctor. He's a very intelligent man. There's no qualms about that. We just had a bit of an ego clash really about who's doing what and when. But I thought, okay, so if I can give that to them to provide me a treatment that they believe on a physical level will work, and the universe is giving it me now, I'll take that and I'll carry on with the other stuff. And that's what brought me to accepting that. And I realise now, again, in hindsight, that was part of the lesson. I was so extreme in that had to be natural, couldn't do, that actually I needed to allow that in and see that there is some value to this in some way. And that actually the bigger picture might be ill intent or ill intentions behind some pharmaceuticals, but...
There's a topic.
Yes, I know. But if this is here and I'm here and now, and maybe I need to learn that it's not this and that opposite polarities, that there's somewhere in between.
Yeah.
And maybe we can do this as an integrated approach. Now, the consultant wasn't interested in that.
Of course not.
He made me solemnly swear that I would not do anything to affect his treatment. To which I then questioned, whose treatment? And I said, what do you need to hear from me? And I need to hear that you're not going to do any of your stuff. And I went, okay. I went, so I won't do my stuff, is that all right? And he went, okay. He said, then we can proceed. Of course I did my fucking stuff.
Of course you did.
I had it all brought in covertly into the hospital. I wouldn't eat their food. My partner was bringing me food, smoothies, ozonated water, you name it, we did it all. Because I knew it had to be an integrated approach. And I believe that even that's part of his lesson as well. You know, because...
He used to climb down off his self-built pedestal.
Yes, yeah. And so I think there was a lesson in that. Although he would never admit it, and I've never had that conversation. The last time I saw him in the corridor at the hospital, he ignored me. So I think we were clear on that one. But so we went about it as an integrated approach. And I believe that halfway through the treatment, it had gone. I'd felt that I was... But he was very reluctant to give me a scan because I think he knew that if I'd got evidence that I would be off.
Yeah, out the door. So
when I finally talked him into doing a CT scan, and his diagnosis was, yeah, well, there's something still going on and that, blah, blah. I said, we need to just keep going. I went, oh, okay then. Now my lovely HIV consultant came in to see me and said, I've looked at your scan, amazing. Virtually nothing there. He said, I think you've done it already. And I was like, same scan? 2 different consultants. Mm. So I do believe that at that stage, anyway, we did proceed. It wasn't very nice. It was chemo every single day. Lumbar punctures in the spine as well. Yeah.
I do lots of those.
Yeah, not fun. No. And... so I proceeded, and long story short, I left hospital 6 months later with a complete all clear.
Excellent news, but that's a long time to be in the hospital. Yeah,
in isolation, in purified air and all that. God. I wasn't allowed out because I'd got no immune system.
Yeah.
That had all gone. Didn't quite stick to that.
What a surprise.
I actually brought myself a little Madgemobile, a little electric scooter. That I had in my room, and I used to nip out every day at every opportunity.
I'd have been surprised if you didn't, if I'm honest.
Yeah. And but I'd sit in a very specific place. I wouldn't sit outside A&E, the main entrance to the hospital. I went and sat outside maternity because that was where life was happening. That's where it was disappearing. So I used to sit outside, and I'd be wishing them well as they came in and seeing the babies leave, because that was the energy that I wanted to be in, and I took that very, very seriously. Even the room, I'd kick the doctor out if he was in a bad mood. I wouldn't let him come in unless he was bringing healing vibes. I changed the decor, changed the duvet, brought my own pictures in, you name it, and made it a really healing environment. So I think it was all part of it, really. And even the chemotherapy, I meditated with the bag. Everyone that went in, I said thank you to, and directed it where it needed to go, told it to miss everything else out. The cannabis oil that I was still taking, I called that my green guards, and I asked them to stand guard on all my internal organs to protect them from the damage of anything else. And I'd go through this whole meditation. And left 6 months later and all clear, but no secondary issues.
That's remarkable.
Did nothing at all, no damage to any...
I love the way you were combining the mental and the spiritual and how it related to the physical.
Yeah.
And how powerful that is.
Yeah. And I think that is the winning formula. You've got to get it on every level, because we're so conditioned to believe it's just this physical level. And I think my personal belief is why we have so many recurring illnesses. The surgeon can take it out, but if you haven't dealt with the emotional scar, the energy, or even the spiritual scar of it, because it doesn't start physically, it starts there.
And it manifests
And it comes
itself.
down, it manifests physical. When it's physical, that's the universe going like, right, can you see now?
Yeah.
And
Wake up.
Yeah, that's what it was with me. It was like one big, right, okay, you've not been listening. We'll give you something to pay attention to. Mm. So for me, I knew instinctively that it had to be on every level. And
I presume you carried on once you were out of hospital.
Yeah, God, absolutely, yeah. Because then I had to rebuild my body. I mean, I couldn't walk. I was 42 kilos. Which is a bit less than 6 stone, I believe.
I'm going to say that's tiny.
Yeah. So I had to rebuild physically, mentally to some degree, because obviously it was, well, I can't say it was that much of a traumatic experience, in all honesty. It must have done. But consciously, I designed every day. I was doing mantras, affirmations. There's a TV in the room, so I'd constantly have comedies on Victoria Wood constantly. Pizza night with friends, I'd get them all in, and like it was all to hold this environment, so that I knew that every possibility of healing was available on whatever level I could get it, really.
That's fabulous. And it took you how long to
recover?
Come back again once you got out of hospital?
In many ways, that was harder because I had to learn to walk again. Mm-hmm. Had to rebuild my body so I had the strength to be able to walk again.
Yeah.
The chemo had definitely done something to my nervous system because, even just not firing, to try and get the messages through, but to have the strength to activate the muscle. And so that took a long time, probably a good 12 to 18 months. And then I got up and I was about and I'd left the chairs and used the frame. Now I was just on crutches, then a walking stick, but I was getting there. And then the world went crazy and they went, no, you can stay at home. Which I didn't take very well at all.
No.
Because I was like, fuck off. I've just spent 6 months in hospital, 18 months learning to walk. I'm just raring to go now.
Yeah, and you want me to stay put.
Stay at home. And I was like, no. Not doing that. But fortunately, I lived in the countryside, so I was very blessed. So I can't say that was too bad an experience. But it gave me more time to go inward and look at really what was going on and what I'd done wrong. And I think I learned more in that period, reflecting, being self-reflective of that journey and what was going on, than the actual event.
Okay, yeah. Processing it.
Yeah, because even the near-death experience, I think even I believed that it was like, oh, I've had a near-death experience, awesome, everything's going to be perfect now. No. I've had to work it out. I've had to work harder to be here. And every day is a day further away from that experience. So I have to work harder to remind myself what it was about. And I love doing things like this because it makes me go back to like, oh yeah, I didn't think of that, or that was amazing. And it's in hindsight I've learnt more than I think I did in the moment. It wasn't like a gift of, there you go, now you're off. It was just, I was gifted a new perspective that put everything into place when I got back, but I still had to cipher all that information and knowing and realise what had actually happened and why I'd done it.
So that was your personal journey, and thank you so much for sharing. That's incredible. When you were getting well again, in the outside of hospital phase, were you starting to think at that point, how can I give this out to other people to share the sort of combination thing and that there's more to it?
Yeah, definitely. That was always on my mind because I thought I haven't been given this experience just for little old me. There's got to be some other reason to it, or there's got to be something to share, even if it's just that story, And I share it when I even do mental health training. I tell people about it because we underestimate the effects of excessive and prolonged stress. And we brush it off. And then I tell them about where we are on the stress curve and how it can actually be catastrophic.
Yeah, it's very dangerous, isn't it?
You know?
Your body's just not built for it. We're built to have little peaks of stress.
Yeah.
We need an element of it, but when it goes up to a certain level and that's the lowest it gets, no.
Absolutely. I always liken it to the racing car, the fancy racing car. If that's driving around continuously in a circle at full speed, eventually the tyres start to wear out and then bits start to drop off. And that shiny new sports car is fucked.
Yeah.
And we're exactly the same.
Yeah.
That's why in racing they take pit stops, right?
They do.
And I think that was one of the biggest lessons. My life was out of balance. I could have continued to do all of that had I really respected and taken adequate rest.
But you were push
But I was always
with everything.
Go. What can I do next? What can I do next? Project, next thing, always.
Yeah.
And I never ever took the time to balance that energy out. So I think we are super human in many, many ways. But anybody I've spoken to, you always come a cropper if you're not balancing it out with the adequate rest and care. You know?
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. So I met you through the sort of meditation and hypnotherapy things that you were doing online.
Yeah.
Do you think that's your calling, or do you think there's something a bit deeper than that going on?
The calling. So that's the biggest question, you know, and as you know,
I do
very well that I'm still asking that question. But my healing therapy, my therapeutic coaching, psychotherapy, that started to take a different level to what I would now call healing, I suppose. Certainly in the energetic sense of the word, there were simply conversations I was having with people, and then they'd come back to me and go, "Oh, that's not a problem anymore. I don't know what you did." And I was like, "I didn't do anything." And I don't have a formula or a thing. It just, when I do my work, there seems to be something else that's working through me. And I'm more familiar with it than I've ever been. But I think what I've come to realize is whatever I'm doing, I'm connected to source and I hold that space and I can channel that energy. Now, anyone is connected to source. We're all connected to source. However, I think I'm just more familiar with it because of a recent experience. And also in that experience, there really was a dying, because the old way of doing things, even my hobbies and interests and all of this sort of thing, and even with the kids, the universe moved it all out of my way. All of it. And I think that's a positive thing, because they were all the things I said yes to with the intention of helping rather than taking care of myself. I'm a lifelong equestrian, for example. Don't know really what life was like without taking care of horses, but it came to the tough conclusion that it's not taking care of you, it's taking care of them. And I had to give that up.
Okay.
Quite simply. Yeah, it was just the shifting, but the universe undid everything. Everything that was holding me in the place where I came from and got sick undid itself beyond me. It was, that's something else, but...
Something really deep.
Yeah, because the universe just took care of it all.
Yeah. In
ways that you consider that weren't even particularly nice. You know, dealing with social services, they didn't want me to keep the children because I was dying, so they wanted to take them away, and we had to fight to keep them. And then
extra stress like that at that time.
Yeah, but they didn't agree, and they kept fighting to the point where they eventually did it behind our back and relocated the kids to another family. Heartbreaking at the time, but I realised again it was part of You've got to take care of yourself. You can't look after 2 children with the difficulties that they have. We still maintained a relationship with them, and I always joke it was, parenting by WhatsApp. Because that's where it comes from. And we're closer to them. They're adults now, and we have a great relationship with them. But things like that, the universe just took care of it. And this was the thing about surrender. I was like, okay, I'm not fighting, because I refused to fight cancer. I said, I'm not fighting. That's a battle. There's no fight, because that's aggressive. I'm going the other way. Yeah. And so it was, as things unfolded, it was just surrender to the moment. This is what's happening. Surrender to it. Allow it to just take its course. And that's what I do from now on, really. Because I could make anything happen previously, as I'm sure you are as a doer. We can make anything happen. But what happens when we let it happen? And that's when it starts to change. Yeah. And I think even now, with the work that I do with other clients, this idea of having a tool, a technique, or a method to make something happen, it's like, actually, I don't need it. Because when we open to this source energy that we're all connected to, clear out the crap that's getting in the way of that, clear the channel to that, because that's all it is. We're all connected to it.
Yeah, that makes good sense.
You clear that crap out, then it becomes clearer, and then we self-heal, because we're hardwired to do so. We're an intelligent organism that's hardwired to take care of itself and sustain itself. So now it's gone, as I put it, a bit batshit crazy, because I can't pinpoint it, I can't label it, but this energy works through, and incredible things have happened for me, and they happen for the people that I work with, regardless of what I'm doing. And I'm starting to learn that now, because again, the psychologist in me was like, well, what's the technique? What's the method? We need to replicate this and da-da-da. No.
Yeah, it needed a label in that brain, but it, like you're saying, it doesn't, does it?
No, it's being in that space where you can allow that energy to come through, clearing out whatever. The sunlight's filtered by a dirty window. Clean the window, you've got bright sunlight,
Yeah.
And that's really what it's about, all of us. Clear out the crap, clear the glass, and it'll come through. And I think that's what I'm able to do, is clean the glass and then let the light through. And
I love the simplicity of that for something that is clearly not simple in your mind at all. You're still on a journey, aren't you, of finding out more about your own potential in the healing space.
Oh, very much so. It's like I say, every day has been, why me? What do I do with this? It can't be just so that I could go about the little life that I had previously. It's got to be something else or some other reason. And a lot of other people have seen things and experienced things through me, more so than myself. But I'm riding with it, and again, I'm surrendering. Yeah. I gave up trying to work it out. Because again, I came out of it with like, right, this is how I'm going to do. I've got to rebuild my body. I've got to do this. So I created another tick list and went straight back into doing. Straight back into it. But being paralyzed, I could only do so much. So it was holding me back. So then I got the opportunity to practice surrender and just go, let's see what happens if I just let go and allow this to happen. And things have unfolded thus far, really.
I think that's just such a unique mindset perspective to come from. I think the majority of people, and the word enlightened is coming into my head and it's kind of making me gip a little bit because it's not quite the word I'm trying to use.
Yeah.
It's people that are able to see the way you describe your near-death experience and the source. The vast majority of people wouldn't have any concept of that. They wouldn't be able to see it, feel it, experience it. Yeah. And because it happened to you, somebody who could, and then was given the time by the universe to reflect on it.
Yeah.
And do something with it that's still evolving.
Yeah,
Fabulous.
because we're conditioned in the opposite direction.
Yeah. Thank you, universe.
Yeah.
Sorry you had to go through all that shit to get here, but thank you.
But you have to, it's part of it. It's all growth, and that's what I took it as. It was like, I never said, oh, I'm sick or I'm ill. It was like, I'm learning something. What is it? And every day was like, what am I learning? What have I missed?
Yeah.
Why am I not, where is it? And that's how I began to accept it all, really, because I thought it's just learning. And if I can learn from it, i.e. never make the mistake again, it's like I don't have a constant fear of getting sick again, because I was like, well, if I've learned the lesson, then I don't need that experience again. So why would it reoccur?
Remarkable.
And I have confidence in that.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I have moments, can have a bit of like an uncomfortable stomach and I go, and then I'm like,
what is it?
No, that's the ego, that's the human thing. And I can move beyond that now, because even if it did, that's what's meant to happen. There's clearly more that I need to learn, but I don't need to learn it in that way anymore.
No, that journey, surely, that lesson has been.
I needed it because I wasn't listening. I was teaching it, I was preaching it, but I wasn't living it or doing it.
Wow. So what's next then?
That's a question.
I know.
More surrender. More surrender. Because again, I've fallen into that trap of the high achiever that's like, right, well, how do I have a life? Do what I need to do this, honour that? What's the business plan? Where can I go with this? And it's driven me bonkers. So earlier on in the year, we had one of those periods where a lot of people started to get sick and a lot of people moved on. And, that's the order of things. I'm quite at peace with that because I know where they're going. And so there's beauty in that, but it doesn't mean that we don't miss or grieve the people that we lose in that sense.
Absolutely.
But it was one of those periods where it just kept coming and coming. And so rolling with that. And I was just like, I'm fucking tired again, because I can accept all of this and I can help other people, but I had to take a bit of time out. Yeah. I thought, I can't keep working this out because it is beyond me. Literally, it's beyond me. It's from somewhere else. And I haven't just been given, oh, here's the rule book, get on with it. It's all been very much working it out. So the past 6 months now, things have calmed down. I've gone into this surrender mode and I've started to say, okay, God, give me a job. Show me what it is, or introduce me to the people that I need to speak to help me, because I haven't got anywhere. I've been in pursuit of this and I've been going to training courses, trying to learn this or that, and I've missed it for this reason or that reason. It just hasn't.
The itch hasn't been scratched yet, has it?
No. But then obviously, as you were present at an event on Saturday, where I was told this is because I don't need to do any of that.
Yep.
I just need to be me, do what I do, and allow that energy to come through.
Yes.
But there's still that part, that ego, that psychologist that's like, wants to, something.
Yeah.
And so now I think it's complete surrender. Things are not perfect in any sense of the word. I still have all the issues that other people have and the same challenges. We're still part of this reality, which is difficult in itself.
Yes, definitely.
Because I never say I've been suicidal, but it's very difficult not to fantasize about, living is a lot harder than dying. In all honesty, it really is. And so there was a huge period where I was like, I wish I'd have gone. I wish you'd just take me, Not because I wanted to die, but because it was just, I knew it was beautiful and it really wasn't a problem.
Yeah.
And it was like, I'm going to have to work really hard. And I have had to work really hard to make sense of it all. And maybe if I probably didn't bother and just went into a deeper sense of trust back then. But I think part of that was, it wasn't just the physical recovery, the financial recovery. I wasn't able to work and still had to, and my partner retired early because he became my carer. And going from being comfortable and affluent to debt and problems and all of this, and then the world got, so they're very human, real things that we have to deal with. And I've always been quite aware, as much as I've been spiritual and quite woo, that, there's still a reality. You can't, anyone can be a monk on a mountain and without any interference. I'm in the life away. Wonderful. I quite enjoy that. But the reality is, try and doing it down here.
Precisely.
And that's why I think in itself has brought more challenges. There was no switch that was flicked. It was like, okay, we've done it now. We've shown you where to see all this from. So I don't see it as problematic. I see it as challenging.
Yeah, fair.
Because it takes energy. But from the source perspective, I'm like, okay, this is what you've given me. This is what needs to happen. Or if I'm that uncomfortable with it, then it's like, right, well, I need to get intentions and manifest a different outcome and make that steady. So there's still work to be done.
Yeah.
But I think more than ever now, I'm allowing it to be guided. But I did fall into that human trap again of like, well, you have to recover from this financially, so you're going to have to get back out to work. And
which is quite a natural thing, like you're saying, because that's what we're programmed.
Yeah.
It's implicit within us, isn't it? But I think you've proved to the world that you're good enough at pushing back against that and taking an alternative route.
Yeah. But I think if it was just me, I think I'd throw caution to the wind a bit more. But like when you've got a family and a partner and those responsibilities, which I don't want to give up.
No.
You know?
I'm sure you treasure them.
Absolutely. I don't have an issue with that, but it's finding the balance, you know, but throwing it all in and just going, oh, you know, God's going to take care of everything. It's like, I'm not even that brave, really.
Wow.
I would say, you know, I've got
I think there's many who dispute that.
Yeah, well, but if I was in the monk on the mountain, then I could do that. But I'm not. I'm a very real person. I don't profess to be better than anyone else. In fact, I'd put money on the fact that I've been a lot worse than most. I've fallen at every possible hurdle, but I've also picked myself up and learned how to jump that hurdle. Yeah. And I think that is the strength of the work that I do now, because a mentor of mine said to me, and I heard this, somebody else said this recently on one of your podcasts. It's absolutely true. You can only take somebody as far as you've been. Mm. And my mentor said that to me and said, and that's the strength of your work, because you've been back to source. And every challenge that I've had, drink, drugs, relationships, abusive partners, HIV, cancer now, learning to walk, all of that, he said, has taken you to be at a point of experience where I can say there's very few issues that people consult me with where I can't say, oh yeah, I've done that.
Yeah, you've literally got the T-shirt for some serious shit on many different levels.
Yeah. And that's why I, as back when I started psychology, if I know how to do something, how to overcome it, I can't keep that to myself. Mm.
I can't wait to see what happens,
I just
Richie.
can't.
I'm just dying to see what, you know, going forward as this evolves even further.
Yeah.
Preferably without any more upsets on the way.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
I just want to caveat it with that very strongly.
Yeah,
I think you've had enough of those.
Yeah.
I just want to see this positivity, which I'm certain we're just going to see more of it, and I can't wait.
I think I've got to just, as I was advised the other day, I need a second coming out.
Yes, you do.
And actually saying, you know, this crazy thing happened to me and now I can do this crazy thing called healing and holding space for people and allowing quite simply magic to happen, you know, and showing people how you can access that. It's not exclusive to me. It's just an acute experience for me. And yeah.
Will you come back and share it with me?
Absolutely. Anytime.
Yes. I can't wait.
I'm so grateful for this opportunity alone. Thank you.
Oh, it's been brilliant. It's been brilliant. I have got goosebumps. There's almost tears in my eyes. I'm that affected by the wonder of this. Thank you so much, my darling.
No, thank you.
And we'll talk again soon.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.